So there's a common theme for everybody who gets up here that we were a little nervous when we get the call from Dave, that Dave wants us to speak. And I think it's just scary that what we have to talk about, what projects we're working on, will be relevant to this group of incredibly accomplished, bright people. But I have to say, yesterday, Connie Reed literally ran from the room, didn't eat lunch, spent 6 pages of notes. And the talks may have not been directly related to her business, but they were insights, they were parallels, they were synchronicities that caused her to think differently about her business and revitalize her thoughts. And that's why we're all here. And so I'm going to trust Dave that this project is relevant to you guys. So I am terrible at timing my conversation to clicking, and it's very distracting. So I am just running a loop. Hopefully it actually runs. If not, tell me, click, aim, click. There we go. So this is just going to be a ongoing images of the small town Smithville that we are trying to redevelop. It is about a mile outside of Austin. There's also cards in the front that were designed by an artist, Angela Davis, and they're our gift to you. Please take them. I don't want to see any of them left. It will hurt Angela's feelings. But they're just blank cards that you can send to somebody that you want to communicate with. So if you are doing civic planning now with the values that we have as a community, and you were able to design a new community that had all the qualities that you would love to live in, it would be relatively small scale, so you can get your arms around it. It would have meeting places, social meeting places where people could get together and ideas could be generated. There would be musicians and there would be artists so that your creativity would be stimulated. Maybe you would have front porches on your homes, and everything would be within walking distance so that you could get natural exercise in your daily course of life. And then the reality is that these places exist, and the problem statement, which most endeavors start with a problem statement. My problem statement was that Austin, Texas, and I've had a lot of great conversations here over the last 2 days with people about the growth of big cities. And Austin is really well known. It's the music capital of the world. It's known for Franklin barbecue and some of the best barbecue in the country. The problem with the growth is a lot of the ways that we've gotten our reputation as being a great city are deteriorating because of the size of the city and the dilution by the population growing so much, the bureaucracy that has to happen in order to deal with traffic and, safety issues in the town, in order to understand everybody's needs in that town. So the problem statement for me is that although I still love Austin and I'm not the type to stay in the past and not understand that there's progress in the future and that growth isn't necessarily bad, I do pine for that old day when I could just go to the grocery store and run into 5 of my closest friends and really have the intimacy of a smaller community. So the problem statement for Smithville is that, like many small towns, it grew up with the railroad. That was the industry, that was the jobs that were there. And when the railroad's still there, but as it became less important, there were less jobs, and there really was an exodus out of this small town. There's still a lot of great old families that live there. There's still a very strong community, but the young people were not staying there. They were not coming back. There was nothing for them. My husband and I bought a ranch. The criteria was an hour outside of Austin, so we'd make sure that we would go there and it wouldn't be too much of a burden to go, so we wouldn't take advantage of it. So we looked a mile radius of Austin at all the land, and we found this community, Smithville, which we loved. But it really was a ghost town. There were beautiful old historic buildings, but nothing behind them. But we fell in love with the land, and we fell in love with the people, and we purchased a ranch in 2006. And we really were looking for getting away from our work, which was in Austin. And so so we didn't necessarily want to bring our work to this small town, but there was only one restaurant, and it closed. It closed in the summertime, and our children didn't want to go to the ranch because it was really boring. There was nothing to do, and there was no young people. So eventually, in 2011, we looked at this town as an opportunity to recreate the small community that was idyllic, and Smithville had a real problem with tax revenue. A adjoining city, Bastrop, was very appealing to all the big boxes, and their sales tax revenue was really strong. But Smithville really chose not to take big boxes. They didn't want to destroy their small community. But the downside of that is that they really had very low tax revenue. The schools were hurting. The city streets were hurting. The police department was hurting. And there were no jobs for young people. And so one of the great assets of Smithville is that some community members, Sheila Tamble in particular, was really, really active in getting films to be filmed there. The movie Hope Floats is probably the most famous that was filmed there. It was Sandra Bullock and Harry Connick Jr., and it was actually about Smithville, not Smithville per se, but small town USA. And so there were people who came from Houston and got their picture taken in front of this cafe, Honey's Cafe, that was in the film, and a number of other places. There were a lot of, you'll see some murals on the walls, and they looked like they're real, but they weren't. They were painted for that movie. And Tree of Life with Terrence Malick filmed Tree of Life there, and then a number of other kind of less well-known films. So we loved that Honey's Cafe, but it was just a facade of a building. It looked, it was completely destroyed inside. So we ended up buying that, and of course, there was no market for real estate in this town, so it was inexpensive. And then we decided we were going to open a Neapolitan pizza restaurant. So we went and we studied how to make Neapolitan pizza. We built a wood-burning oven, and we opened Honey's Restaurant. And we also opened an Amy's Ice Cream. And the idea was just seeding the town for really attracting the types of people that we want to be there. We also, Jimmy Vaughn, Stevie Ray Vaughan's brother, but also almost even more accomplished musician, was living outside in a ranch, and he wanted to open a blues club because Smithville was on the Chitlin circuit, and it was known, just got a historical marker for one of the first Negro Baseball League fields, and there were just tons of kind of silent musicians in the area that he wanted to create a place for them to play. So we really got that if enough people got in a conversation about what it takes to build this city and what it takes to make it what we want it to be, and we can be very thoughtful in advance about the composition and who to attract, then we can really build a little paradise. So we went about, we didn't want to be the only players. It takes a lot of energy, and so we went to our friends who were real doers and tried to recruit them into the town. Connie Reed with Consuela is one of those doers who's really added to the town. We found a woman who, Bunkhouse, which is the San Jose Hotel in Austin, Texas, a woman named Liz Lambert. She also was credited with developing Marfa. We got her main designer to open a mercantile in the town, which just created a lot of, what you need is critical mass. Like, why are people going to go there? So really the timing of this town and the development was one because of high-speed internet. We had a lot of high-tech people moving into the town, really bright people with resources, because they were able to work remotely. Also, because of low mortgage rates and a limited place to invest money, people were investing in large, ranch properties. So we had a lot of people coming from Austin and from Houston, which was 2 hours away. And then also food tourism is becoming really popular. People go on a weekend expedition around their area. And if you live in Texas, you can't get outside of Texas. It takes you 5 or 6 hours to get outside, and then you can just get to New Orleans, which is fabulous. But once you've gone there 10 times, you're kind of done with that. So people tend to make these smaller jaunts and explore these little towns. So there's a lot of food tourism, which is a great opportunity, economic opportunity. So we got a bunch of friends to open. We also just said, okay, and I have to say, I'm doing this speech, but the number one quality you need for being successful is tenacity, and my husband is the most tenacious person I know, and he is really driving the development of this town. He just absolutely will not give up. And so we seeded it, and we really got a lot of traction. We got a lot of people traveling to come to Honey's. It's really a wonderful pizza. One of the byproducts, and I don't know if I really had thought of this in advance, and it's really important to me at Amy's, is the development of young people and the natural opportunities for them to grow. Spencer was talking about teaching budgeting. Well, these kids had no opportunity to understand business, and we practice open book management. The unintended consequence, but a positive consequence, was jobs. We are the 4th largest employer in this city, behind the railroad, the school district, and the utility. And we have young people who really, in these small towns, drugs are becoming really prevalent because there's nothing to do. There's not really an alternative or a hope. Our staff is just so incredibly motivated there. We have one who's going off to culinary school because she was exposed to the kitchen and creation and all the opportunities that come with that. So we got people. What do you need? So first of all, you need a place for people to stay. So there was 2 bed and breakfasts there, but they were really country cute, and for the modern traveler and people with economic resources that you wanted to attract, that really wasn't the style they were looking for. So the people who ran them were really interested in retiring, and so my husband went and spoke for the Chamber of Commerce, and just so happens this lovely couple from Austin was tired of Austin, and so they go, yeah, sure, we'll buy the bed and breakfast. She has incredible taste, Linda Leibowitz, and she redesigned the bed and breakfast, and it's beautiful. My husband is opening a RV park. We really want to do like a glamping park. We just have to find the right player. So Airbnb coming around, that makes it a lot more possible that there's enough housing for people to come and for it to be a regular place that people talk about and return to. So number 1 was lodging. Number 2 was things to do. So there's a lot of natural things that happen in small towns that are really spectacular and very nostalgic, like parades. We have 2 major parades. We have the Festival of Lights in Christmas, and all the neighboring towns, all their fire engines, and all the Cotton Princess, and you can't know how many princesses are in the 10-mile radius from Smithville, Texas, until you go to the parade. Everybody is in that parade. People are decorating all kinds of crazy vehicles, and it's just such an incredible communal event. We have a jamboree. We have a photo festival that attracts photographers from all over, where people drag in all kinds of interesting things to take pictures with, like old tractors, and we have a 1950s Ford 150, and it's beautiful red truck, and people bring their antique cars down there and take pictures. Music, we were able. I'm not speaking in sequence but you've seen a picture of Queen Margarita, and then a ceramic mural that was done. This woman was an Austinite, very accomplished artist. We hired her to come down and do this mural for us of Queen Margarita for Honey's. And she moved down there, and she brought 10 of her artist friends to come down and live there too. Her husband, who's a high-tech guy, could work from there, and then he also got in the business of moving houses and redeveloping the houses. It's incredibly affordable, and so it's creating this huge art scene. We at Honey's, we have that outdoor area that's perfect for music, so we have concerts all the time. So my kids want to go to Smithville now, and before there was nothing to do. And the kids, it's an entrepreneurial opportunity. We funded a woman who opened a gym, and she's just incredible, just thriving and doing really, really well. There's a women's clothing store that opened. This is Bone Spirits, is an incredible distillery that actually was there before we went there, but it's increased its traffic phenomenally and has an incredible product and is getting much more visibility. So that's my son Henry. So the good thing about it is that we were able to enhance this community, started on a role of development that's created more community. We're at Honey's and there's 3 tables. It's about 3 days after we opened and it was packed. And these 3 tables of people had lived there for over 20 years. They had never met one another and they lived within 2 miles of each other. And they started this dynamic conversation and started a roving dinner party, and then it started growing and growing and growing. And so this ability to enhance community, there was no meeting place. Across the street from us is a guy who was the coach for the football team, and he was the English teacher, and he ran the PAL program, and all around super good guy. And he's on Facebook, and he has as many 5,000 followers, and it's everybody who's ever gone through Smithville High. So we opened a bar with him it's a bar and social club called Coach Q's Social Club, and they're every year is having their reunions there, and the energy and the enthusiasm, and he blew up pictures of all the people who had gone through, in sports all around, and when they come in, they sign their name, and they're not NBA basketball players, but they're people who had really made their mark in high school sports and had pride associated with it. He has a pay it forward program where he's got a billboard, and you pay for a drink, and so it might say a veteran. The next veteran that comes in, I want to thank you for your service, I've bought your drink. Just the sense of community is phenomenal, the sense of entrepreneurship, the development of young people and the opportunities for them to get that really valuable Dairy Queen experience of having a job and what a job is like and how it can be valuable, and then that sense of community of your employer and your team. That's the wonderful things that have happened here. It's really a great feeling place to be. The downside is that, and Bo Burlingham, of course, had to raise it to me, that I'm like, Bo, it's incredible. It's affordable housing. You can buy a house for $100,000. It's beautiful. It's got great bones. There's so many artists here, and it's just great. And he said, affordable until it's not. And so that's the downside, is the housing and commercial properties have increased 150%. And along with that comes increased property taxes. We have a lot of neighbors that are very mad at us for calling any kind of attention to the city because the property values are raising for their tax purposes. Because it was really a town of that really was deserted. People started moving in into the commercial properties to live. And so when we opened the Honey's restaurant, we create smoke, and it was annoying, and we have a lot of noise, and we have music, and there's a residential property that it's in the commercial district right behind us, and they're real mad at us, and we raised the smokestack 20 feet and did everything we can, but basically they've chosen to live in a commercial area, and it's residentially, so they're a little mad at us. There's definitely people who feel left out, and people who want just really want more development. And there's opportunists. There's one guy who bought buildings, and he's just holding everybody ransom because we all want those buildings to be filled. There's house flippers that are raising the prices and limiting the opportunity for other people. So it's not completely without problem, but do you guys know who Chip and Joanna Gaines are? So, okay, if they can make Waco look appealing, then certainly you guys all want to come visit Smithville. But I just think it's a wonderful way of saving historical buildings, entrepreneurship opportunities, affordable housing, music and artists, and creating a sense of community. Thank you guys very much.